Welcome to Big Apple Breakdown, a sports show with host Johnny and co-host Henry. Henry, are you excited to get going?
Yeah, I'm very pumped. We got this beautiful studio that we're able to use. It's going to be very exciting.
So basically a breakdown of this show. We're going to be going primary over New York sports, but we'll cover national sports. Like, of course, we're going to talk about the NFL playoffs right now, but specifically we'll go over New York sports.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. We've done different iterations of the show in the past, but now we're going to hone in on New York sports, and it's going to be very exciting.
So just a quick backstory. We are Yankee fans, but of course we're going to go over the Mets. We're going to go over the Yankees. I'm a Giants fan. You're a Jets fan. And in basketball, I'm actually a Lakers fan, so I have no bias towards the New York sports.
Basketball, I'm technically a Nets fan, and we will get into a lot of basketball in here, just not really
yet. It's not really
this week.
Dead time of the season. When trade deadline comes, more news will come.
Of course.
But we got a lot going on this episode. We will go over the NFL playoffs, the Wildcard Weekend, divisional matchup, and news with both our teams having big off seasons ahead of the Jets and Giants. We'll get into baseball. We'll talk a lot of baseball. We're going to give our thoughts about, obviously, we're Yankee fans, Juan Soto leaving. We'll give our thoughts and opinions about that and what it means for both teams. But to start off, let's get into Super Wildcard Weekend. So let's start off, I guess, chronological order. So the first game was the Texans and Chargers, and this one was a little bit of an upset, even though the Texans were home. They had a rocky year, kind of back and forth. They ended up, just kicking the Chargers' ass, really.
Yeah, I remember looking at this game on the schedule before, being like, almost counting it as a Chargers win, and boy, was I wrong. Herbert just did not look like himself. He had 4 interceptions, and coming into this game, he had 3 all year.
Overall, the Chargers had an awesome year under first-year coach Jim Harbaugh, but Herbert threw 4 interceptions, which was actually one more than his total for the year,
which is insane.
He had 3 in the year. And overall for the Chargers, good year. Got to build upon this. People expect them to be in the divisional round, but now I think Herbert's had 2 playoff appearances, and he blew a 27-0 lead the first time around, and now 2 years later he threw 4 interceptions. So I think his critics are going to get a little loud, and he needs to have a good playoff performance next time he gets in.
He does. I like what they're doing out there, though. Bringing in Harbaugh, they got a way that I feel like they used to just be super pass heavy, and Harbaugh has brought more of that kind of upfront football, win the line of scrimmage, and I think they're moving in the right direction. I mean, if you thought about this at the end of last year before they even hired Harbaugh, most of us would have said the Chargers are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, overall, I think they have the brightest future out of the teams that lost this weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be back in the playoffs, but
they're very Ladd McConkey heavy. They got to add another weapon, keep building up front.
Yep.
But I think they have a bright future.
Yeah, got to try to compete with the Chiefs. They lost both times to them this year. Want to compete with them. They'll be back next year. And then the night game was a divisional rival matchup, Steelers-Ravens, probably, I would say, the best rivalry in the NFL at this point. And this was their 3rd time around. They split the season series, and the Ravens kind of just dominated right away, kind of owning the Steelers, and Steelers kind of looked soft, and it was a bad performance for them.
Yeah, they did look soft. Lamar and Derrick Henry led the way. Huge rushing attack, and
overall, I mean, the Steelers fell apart. They lost 4 straight to end the season, and then they lost 5 straight, I guess, going to playoffs. And I saw a stat that 2 other teams in the AFC lost 5 straight games at the end of the year, and those were the 2 top 5 teams in the draft, I believe. The Patriots were one of them, and then I believe it was the Titans the other one. So
wow, that's crazy.
Really bad year. I mean, disappointing ending for them. And they start off 10-3.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a different year for them but it's kind of similar. They get their 9-8 wins, get in the playoffs, and lose first round. And quarterback, main thing, I thought Russell Wilson had a decent year to start off.
He did.
But
he really did.
I'm like, okay, they benched Justin Fields. I understood it because the Justin Fields for them, it felt like the Kenny Pickett situation. 9-8 was on its way.
Kind of the energy that Russell Wilson brought back into them and brought back into himself. I remember when after his first couple games they're saying they're letting him be himself in Denver. You had guys chewing him out on the sideline like Sean Payton and teammates and stuff. And then, just totally unraveled there at the end. I remember after the Steelers beat the Jets, I was like, wow, maybe like they could go on a run. I mean, they ran into the Ravens. Who knows if they could have figured something out over if they played a different team. But they ran into the Ravens. The Ravens were just going to take that one. There's really nothing.
I mean, I thought they could have competed
Yeah,
in the playoffs. They were 10-3 at one point. They were looking like in first place. Wilson didn't end the year off, and now a lot of questions for them are coming. We'll get into Mike Tomlin more about potentially moving on from him, which I think is
that would
nuts.
Be
but
the worst idea.
We're getting
ever,
into it later, and then I expect them to move off of Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
But the next game was Bills-Broncos. Bills were heavy favorites. Actually, take back what I said. The Broncos have the brightest future out of these teams that have lost. Broncos, which I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, made the playoffs. Bo Nix showed so much promise. Sean Payton, great year for him. Came up short this game, but no one expected them to win.
I remember I said to you the other day that Bo Nix felt kind of like one of those manufactured quarterback prospects where they throw someone else in the conversation just because they have to. And he really proved me wrong on that because he is a legit quarterback and led them to a great year.
Yeah, he had an awesome year, and I don't think people are talking about how well he played this year because of Jaden Daniels, how great of a rookie season he has. But the Broncos, now the expectations can be higher. They gotta upgrade the roster, get back into the playoffs. But overall, great season for them. Next matchup, Packers lose to the Eagles. Kind of an ugly game this was.
Yeah.
Eagles didn't even play that great. Packers looked rough. Jordan Love, not a great game. Overall, I would say disappointing season for the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. It started against the Eagles with that Jordan Love injury. And the Packers is one of those teams that are always going to be there. But it's actually kind of funny. I saw someone tweet out, they were like, we took Aaron Rodgers for granted. I think that's so funny. They don't realize how good they have it because Jordan Love's a great quarterback. He just had a bad game, and they got lucky last year. Not lucky.
Last year, Dallas. They almost beat the 49ers.
Yeah,
and this year, people expected Super Bowl. There were some Super Bowl things for them.
People just because they beat Dallas as a 7 seed last year were like, we're going to do it again. That just wasn't going to happen this year against the Eagles.
And overall, they went 1-5 in the division. Kind of disappointing year. I think people thought they would compete with the Lions. They finished third in the division.
Yeah,
tough division, but they got to improve.
They need a real weapon.
Yeah,
a real weapon, and
they're a good team.
They are a really good team. Yeah.
Overall, wasn't their best year. This was really Jordan Love's second year, starting. So he's still young, but I think disappointing overall. The next game was the only good game of the weekend, really. Commanders-Bucks. Commanders, just an awesome year. I mean, I remember looking back in the season earlier, I thought 3-win team coming. Commanders always been bad. Dan Quinn's really turned around. Jaden Daniels might be having the best rookie quarterback season of all time. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's just so composed, and he's incredible. Fourth rookie quarterback ever to win a road playoff game. Joined Russell Wilson, Mark Sanchez, and Joe Flacco.
Wow. An awesome year for him. Overall, for the Bucks, this is just kind of who they are. They're not in a great division. They've won the division, I believe, 4 years in a row now. And this is who they are. They're not really a Super Bowl contender. They'll get 9-8 wins, 9-10 wins. Baker Mayfield, he's playing well. He's had a rejuice in his career, but overall, I kind of think they're never going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl or make a Super Bowl. Kind of just expect they'll win that division, maybe win a playoff game, but this is really who they are. They really bite themselves in the foot a lot this game. They had a turnover, a couple penalties. They really could have won this game, but good for the Commanders. And then the last game, Vikings, Rams, played in Arizona because of the LA Fires. Overall, for this game, Vikings just really disappointing last two weeks for them for such an awesome year.
I think even going back to last week, Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn really unlocked something of a way to attack Sam Darnold with the blitz. He got sacked 9 times. He totally returned to form of his old self, and he cost himself a lot of money in this game.
Yeah, we'll definitely get more into that later, but yeah, it sucks. They were 14-2. Most years they would have easily clinched their division.
Oh, yeah.
Tough when you have the Lions there, and now a lot of questions coming for the offseason. Sam Darnold really, like you said,
Watching
Horrible 2 weeks for him.
Watching that post-game press conference, I really don't think the Vikings will bring him back. Watching O'Connell in his post-game press conference, he was just building him up for the year he had, and of course he had a great year up until that point. But it felt almost like he was just trying to put a good ending on it so that people hear that and doesn't lose too much money.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the long-term deal. Maybe a franchise tag from them, but not from Minnesota. And overall, I don't know if he's going to get a long-term deal in general. I mean, we're going to mention that when we get in the Giants quarterback options. But that was it for Wildcard Weekend. Overall, kind of just a boring playoff weekend. Really one good game. And I wonder if that's just the NFL right now. I was thinking about this. There's just a giant gap in between these tiers of teams. There's like 6 to 7 awesome teams that could win a Super Bowl. And I wonder if that's because of the 18-game format. I don't know. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think, I could see it being because of that format. Also, it's just very top-heavy. Like some of these teams draft well. I think it could also be because teams blow it up too quickly. So these teams that don't think they have a chance just go in and totally blow it up. So very top-heavy and just very bottom-heavy.
And, I mean, overall in the AFC, it's the same 4 teams as last year in the division. And even the NFC, the Commanders are the one team that, found an upset the way to be there. But Lions, Rams, Eagles, those are all good teams.
Yeah, and they've all been – I know the Eagles
games,
didn't make it last year, but they've been a mainstay for long. They kind of got upset by the Bucs last year, and their season
Rams
just unraveled at the end there.
Lions expected to be here. But overall, I think the divisional matchups will – be more entertaining, which we will get into later. Now let's get into our local football teams.
Sure.
Let's start off with the Jets. So overall, Jets obviously had a really disappointing year. Nothing you guys haven't heard before. A lot of questions ahead. They fired everybody. What are they going to do at quarterback? What are they going to do at head coach? What are they going to do at general manager? How are you feeling about a Jets fan? Overall, recap this season as it was a disaster.
So this season was a complete disaster. They had a lot of close games where if you're a good team, you win those games. And it started out, obviously they lost to the 49ers. There were a couple chances there where they could have gone back into the game. But really, once you go, they win the next week against the Titans. And that was one of those messy games where, the better team just prevails. And then the next week against Denver, that's where it started to unravel. You had them, the Vikings, a couple other games where they were close and the Jets had chances. The Bills game, missed field goals, things like that, where good teams win those games, and that's like 3, 4, 5 more wins on the season total. And the Jets just weren't able to do that. And then at that point, it just totally unraveled down the stretch. They fired their coach, middle of the year, 4 games in, which that to me made no sense. I
think it was a mistake.
It was such a mistake. And sitting there thinking about it, I was like, okay, we don't have a chance with him. But so what's going to change without him?
I just don't get why didn't they fire him last year?
Yeah, last year.
And what is those 5 games going to change?
And it just creates
you knew
more.
What you had.
Yeah, and it just creates more dysfunction. It just created more dysfunction for the Jets, who already were in a pretty bad spot.
So I think the first question about their offseason is, what are you going to do with Rodgers? What do you think is the plan? Does he retire? Do you move on from him? Does he play somewhere else? What in your opinion, as a Jets fan, should they do with him?
So, I mean, that's all going to be up to the new head coach and GM. But if I were the Jets, I would look at both options because, and this is the reason. So, if you bring back Aaron Rodgers, you need a coach who will be out there in front of the media and will take all the shots for Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers puts himself time and time again into a position where he says he doesn't like the limelight or whatever, but then he puts himself in a bad position in the media. If you keep Aaron Rodgers, you don't get that cap hit. If you let him go, they will have a $49 million cap hit, and they could either take that all next year or take it over the next 2 years. But he wouldn't be the same thing that he has been the last 2 years, where it's like, oh, we got a chance, we got this great quarterback.
I think it would be different.
It would be totally different. He would be a bridge quarterback, And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers' ego could handle being a bridge quarterback.
I wonder.
But
overall, like, I think it should be up to the general manager and head coach, whoever they hire. Which I
it should not be up to Woody Johnson.
No, it should not be. Rodgers shouldn't have any say in who the next person is. He should accept just being a player or whatever. He's not the main piece. He's a 1-year bridge gap.
Yeah.
And the thing with Jets, like, who else are you going to bring in as a quarterback? That's
the thing.
I don't think they're not going to draft a quarterback. I'm pretty positive.
Yeah, they're not going to draft a quarterback.
And the free agent options, like, I'll read you some of them. Darnold, obviously, which that won't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to come back. Justin Fields, Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins could be an option.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, like lower tier Cooper Rush, Jimmy Garoppolo. Those are all options. I don't see them doing that. It's just weird. Like, you think they should bring in a Jameis Winston, say, screw it, this guy's going to be our quarterback for this year if they get rid of Rodgers?
I don't think they would. I mentioned something about Kirk Cousins. I thought something about Kirk Cousins a couple weeks ago. But
I think that's a terrible idea.
But is it? Because you'd get him on like a 1-year or 2-year deal. He'd be a bridge. The Jets also have Jordan Travis, who was hurt this whole year. Young guy. I don't think he
will not be your week one starter.
I don't think he'll be doing anything, but just something to think about. But if the Jets keep Rodgers, and this is like a small thing, then they'll end up keeping Devontae Adams, and then they don't have to worry about adding another weapon. They could add to their O-line or pass rush in the draft.
If it's not Rodgers,
like
I think it might be Jameis Winston. Like,
I
seriously,
could see that. I
think that could be the quarterback. And, he's fun. Like, he's a good bridge gap guy. Because, like, the Jets, they're not gonna draft a quarterback.
Oh yeah, no chance.
I think the Giants, who I think will draft a quarterback, which we'll get into later, but it's a tough situation. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers wants to do, because if he chooses to retire, then that's kind of the easiest thing. Like, you don't have to make this tough decision.
But if he chooses to retire, then that cap hit is huge. And I don't know if you take it all in 1 year just to get it out of the way, or if you would spread it over 2 years.
Okay, let's move on to head coach. So they've interviewed a lot of people. Let's get into the headline one. Rex Ryan is just advocating for this job.
Yeah.
Kind of like that desperate girlfriend who wants her ex-boyfriend back.
Yeah.
Like,
he's out basically campaigning for the job.
All over
the
ESPN.
media.
I mean.
Yeah. When Vrabel got hired, he said I can't wait, or hopefully I can kick his ass 2 times a year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's no way I don't think they'll do it. I think it's a bad idea. I mean, Rex hasn't coached in 8 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't coordinated. And it's just like, it didn't work 15 years ago. It's like, why would it work now? Like, he would get the fans excited at the press conference. He'd get the locker room amped up. But overall, I don't really see the benefits in this.
And I don't think he necessarily wants to coach. I think he just wants to coach the Jets, because he's been offered
it's not like
jobs in the past for defensive coordinator and stuff, and he's turned it down. I think he wants the limelight a little bit too here.
No,
wants to be the guy.
He could have been a defensive coordinator. He chose not to. He chose to do the media. But I don't think he's actually going to get hired. Do you, like, as a Jets fan, do you want it? Like,
I mean, it would be something, but it would be one of those things where, just like how I got super excited for Aaron Rodgers, where it gets me this wouldn't get me bought back in, but this would get me thinking like, oh wow, this is going to be so cool. And then, but I know in the back of my head, like, this is going to come crashing down.
You'd be excited. You'd see the press conference. You'd be excited as a fan.
It would fire me up a little bit. There'd be a bunch of old highlights of when I was like little, like 2010.
Like, it's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like, I think fans are forgetting it. It didn't work that well. Even though those years they won those playoff games, they were a 9-10 win team.
Yeah.
They weren't a powerhouse. They had great playoff runs. They had upset wins.
And I keep seeing things about how he kind of capped Mark Sanchez's development, because there'd be times where they'd get blown out and he would just go ground and pound and totally go away from the pass.
He would change the culture. He'd be a ground and pound guy. Like, I mean, we know what Rex Ryan is. Like, I just don't think it would work. I don't think it's end up going to happen.
Oh, I don't think so either.
A week or two ago, it was louder than it ever should have been.
Yeah.
You'd keep people calling the sports shows, talking about it, and it was all over the headlines. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, just showed you that report that the Jets are his first choice, which I'm a little surprised by that, because he has options, Aaron Glenn.
He has options, and he has ties to the Jets and the Saints. But I don't know
How do you feel about him?
I like him a lot. He's a really good coordinator. He's a really good coordinator, but I don't know if he'd be able to I've been seeing stuff where they're saying I don't think he could handle New York, which I don't agree with. I don't know. I like him a lot. I think he'd be good. He seems like kind of a fiery guy. I think he'd come in and change the culture and like light a fire under people's butts. But I don't know if he could help Rodgers handle the media the way Rex Ryan would take that off of him.
His head coach should have nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers.
But
it should have nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Glenn comes in and says,
true.
"I don't want Aaron Rodgers on the team," then you get rid of him. Like
that is true.
Rodgers isn't part of the future. He's maybe in New York for another year. I think that's just a bad idea to be
to think about that. Okay, I could see that.
I guarantee you in all these interviews, one of the top 5 questions are, "What do you want to do with Aaron Rodgers?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Woody Johnson's going to hire someone who doesn't want Aaron Rodgers back because he doesn't want Aaron Rodgers back. But
I could see Aaron Glenn. The only thing is he not similar to Robert Saleh, defensive coach?
Defensively,
shouldn't the Jets maybe focus on an offensive coach? That's what I've wondered.
And you want to know who I really like?
Who?
I'm kind of getting involved into Matt Nagy.
Really?
Are you surprised about that?
Because he had a bad tenure with the Bears.
But
it
did
really
he?
wasn't that.
Did he have a bad tenure?
Look at the Bears now. He made the playoffs multiple times.
12 win teams. They were.
He had Mitchell Trubisky.
They were a double
doink
away from
winning a
playoff game. I really like him, and he comes from that Chiefs tree. He's won Super Bowls with the Chiefs as a coordinator.
Might win another one this year. Yeah. I'm bought into him because he also gets a lot of slack for his time there, but he is a really good coach. What about Steve Spagnuolo? I mean, probably one of the great coordinators of all time. He is. I
put him on my short list.
Giants fans know him.
Yeah.
He won 2 Super Bowls with us. He's gone to the Chiefs, won 3. One of the greatest defensive coordinators ever. He's older. I personally don't see him becoming a head coach. He had a stint with the Rams after the Giants went all the way back after 2007, that era. He didn't do well. He came back to the Giants. And then I think he might just be a coordinator guy. I don't really see. I mean, he might want to be a head coach. I just personally think he should stay a defensive coordinator. It didn't work with the Rams.
I think it would be better for him to stay a defensive coordinator, but he's intriguing definitely, and not someone just to blow over.
And then Joe Brady, Bills offensive coordinator. I mean, he's a young guy.
He's done great for quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow at LSU.
Well, Josh Allen was more Brian Daboll's.
Yeah, that is true. But
he's done a great job. But
last year
they had that bad stretch with Ken Dorsey.
And then kind of open because Josh Allen had a bad start to the year last year.
No, Bills were 6-6.
Yeah, throwing a lot of picks and stuff, and then they fired Ken Dorsey and Joe Brady came in,
did a good job.
Unlocked him a little bit more.
You know who's an intriguing option for me? Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. I think he's an underrated coach. His 5 years with Dallas, the first year that's when Dak tore his ACL. He had 3 straight 12-win seasons, and this year was kind of a wash too. But I think he can come in, build a culture there.
The Jets should have hired him the year they hired Adam Gase. It seemed like McCarthy was kind of the front runner for the job there. And also, I know we keep saying that head coach has nothing to do with quarterback, but he does have ties to Aaron Rodgers. I saw something that
McCarthy can deal with.
Yeah,
him. He wouldn't care.
Yeah, and their tenure his tenure kind of ended in Green Bay because they got a little stagnant, weren't winning as much. But he knows Aaron Rodgers really well, and maybe he could. That was a long time ago.
Of their careers.
But I saw a report that he's interested, but the Jets are not interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might be headed the Bears or Saints direction.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna get a job.
I think Bears is where he'll end up.
So here is as not a Jets fan, here is what I think they should do. Steelers Nation is mad at Mike Tomlin for, kind of being stuck in the mud, and I think the Jets should try to trade for him. I would give up
a lot.
I think I would give up a couple first-round picks for him. I think he's awesome. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. He's been with the Steelers for 18 years. It might just be time to move on. They've been stuck in this, they get their 9-10 wins, and they don't win playoff games. I think that's Jets fans' dream scenario.
That would be a dream scenario, but I think in that sense, the Steelers fans are thinking one thing. I don't think the Steelers front office is thinking that at all. I think
they might be annoyed. I don't know.
But I think the Steelers fans got to be delusional thinking that. You know what I would do for they've they've had 3 losing seasons since like 1990.
Yeah, but it's the Steelers. Like we're Yankee fans. Like
yeah,
and I think
but baseball's just so different.
Well, they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like they are one of the most iconic franchises in sports. And I've thought about this because like we're Yankees fans. We've been frustrated with how stuff's been going, and we've been way closer than the Steelers have been to winning it all. Like we've been in the World Series, we've won playoff series. We haven't been under 500 30 years. And they're kind of stuck in the mud with Tomlin. Like, 18 years is a long time, and he hasn't won since 2008.
But the Steelers are kind of one of these franchises. They've only had like 3 or 4 coaches ever.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, I don't think the Steelers could imagine being bad. But to be honest, like they can't really the quarterback situation, that's not really his fault. They took the wrong year to draft Kenny Pickett. They never had a high pick.
Yeah, they kind of had their hands tied in that scenario to go take the Pittsburgh kid. There wasn't really it was a year where they should have drafted a quarterback, but there wasn't really anything there, and that ends up happening.
So like other fan bases think like, oh, Yankees have it so good they don't know it. I think that's but the Steelers like
they are very
really
similar.
Really bad if they don't have Mike Tomlin. I don't want to say it's similar. The Yankees had more success than the Steelers.
Oh yeah, they've had more.
Decade, it's not even close.
They've had more success, but
overall, I mean, the Steelers want to be back in the Super Bowl, back in these AFC Championship games every year. I mean, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Like that's a long time. They've been in the playoffs a lot of those years. They've been underdogs, I think, in all those playoff games they played in since. Because I don't think they've won a division since then. Off the top of my head, they might have a couple years, but the end of the Ben era was. Oh yeah, they did. The year they lost to the Browns in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
But overall, it's got to be frustrating. I mean, I get it. They're frustrated as a fan, and maybe the reason why it's just stale, and sometimes going a step or two backwards might
spring you forward.
Might be the best way to get back to the Super Bowl, which is the goal for Steelers Nation. Because they're never going to be able to pick high enough to get a quarterback, and that's the issue. And they're kind of just in this stuck thing. All right, let's try a new vet every year.
Yeah, I thought about this the other day. Tell me if I'm just totally wrong. I feel like their roster construction right now is similar to how the Chiefs built up, and with that, like when Reed first got there, it was horrible. They built up something with Alex Smith. He was their bridge guy, brought them to some success. And then but they just like stayed there and waited, and Mahomes was their guy, and like they
just saw Mahomes. I agree. It's a good roster.
It's a great roster, and like they're just a quarterback away.
In their division, they're facing some of the best quarterbacks in football twice a year with Burrow and Lamar.
Yeah, and the Chiefs don't really, or like they do have a lot of competition in that, but like
their defense is awesome. I mean, T.J. Watt was hurt at the end of the year, kind of fell apart, and overall, like obviously they have the roster, they're winning these games, but. It's so like I don't know who they're gonna find their quarterback. It's like we'll get into it more because I think we have a voicemail about it. But it's a tough thing what they're gonna do with their quarterback. I mean I don't know. I don't know.
Because it's definitely not gonna be Russ next year.
No. There's no way it's Wilson. I mean, do we want to play the voice recordings now? I mean we're kind of
we could.
So we're doing a voicemail thing and we'll play this first voice recording as my uncle called in about the Steelers.
As a Steeler fan here, who do you see will be their quarterback next year? I personally can't see them bringing back Russell Wilson, and I don't think anyone in the league will want Russell Wilson. Last year, only the Steelers would take a chance on him for $1.5 million per year. Do you think anyone will pay him any type of money? Do you think the Steelers will go after Aaron Rodgers or make some type of trade and get someone like maybe a Kyler Murray and surprise us all? Thank you.
All right, thank you for the call from my Uncle Chris. And first part of that question, no, I don't see them bringing Russell Wilson back. I mean, overall it ended disappointingly, and I agree. I don't know who would take Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback. I think his time as a starter might be done. I think he might be a backup next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know who would take Russell Wilson, but then I also don't know who the Steelers are going to bring in. Maybe they could bring back Justin Fields and try to run that.
I saw a report like Mike Tomlin said like he definitely thinks Justin Fields could be a starting quarterback. My thing is Fields feel a little disrespected. I mean, I remember he said in the media he's like I didn't play well enough.
Yeah.
Because I think a team like the Giants might try to get Justin Fields or even the Jets.
Even the Jets
could go after Justin Fields. But the second part of the question, I think Aaron Rodgers is a really intriguing name to the Steelers if he is available, if he's willing to go somewhere else and not retire. If Aaron Rodgers this year, if you give his production on the Steelers, I think they're playing right now in the playoffs, divisional round, personally.
Yeah, I could see that. I honestly think Aaron Rodgers is either going to be a Jet or not come back. Like, I think if he comes back, I don't really see a situation where he comes back and says, I want to play, but I don't want to play for the Jets, unless he really, really wants to play, and the Jets are just like, go away, we don't want you.
Well, if he wants to play, I think the Steelers make the most logical sense.
They do. I mean, they make more sense than any other team.
I think that'd be a really good fit. And then Kyler Murray, if Kyler Murray is actually available for trade, the Steelers should put a full court press to get him.
Yeah.
Because I think Kyler Murray's an awesome player. I think he's kind of stuck in a bad situation in Arizona. And now you have the chance to compete. He's not as good as Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, but he's a top 10 talent. And he's an awesome athlete, and I think he could really, him on the Steelers would make them a scary team.
Yeah, and you put talent around him. I just don't see the Cardinals moving off him. They signed him to this deal not too long ago, and they put Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. around him. I
can see it. I mean, I think Arizona's kind of stuck. I mean, I've seen some reports that he could request a trade. I mean, he would have to request a trade. I don't think they're just going to trade him. But if he requests a trade, I can really see the Steelers going all out for him because he'd be the best quarterback play they'd have since, before Ben turned washed. I mean, which was 2016, 2017. I mean, I think he'd be an awesome fit there.
Yeah, he would. They haven't really had a good quarterback since Ben.
No, at all. So thank you for the call. Now let's get into my New York Football Giants. So overall, I'll recap the season real quick. Worst season in probably their franchise history. The expectations weren't much, but the New York Giants, I mean, they used to be one of the historic franchises in football. They should never be 3-14. I mean, this was their worst season win percentage wise. They were awful. Just a disastrous season from the start. They got rid of Daniel Jones midway through the year. Anyone could have seen this coming. I mean, the Daniel Jones contract was a mistake. Just a horrible year. I mean, they blew away with the number 1 overall pick by a meaningless win where Drew Lock turned into Eli Manning in the Super Bowl. And it was just a disaster year. I mean, that's where you throw it in the garbage. And John Mara shocked me by keeping Joe Shane. I thought was going to stay, but Brian Dable, I really thought when they were 2-12, losing all these games, I thought there was no way they were going to keep him. It just looked really bad. And then a couple days before the season, and I saw some reports that they might keep, that they're leaning towards keeping both. And that's the decision they made. And overall, as a fan,
do you like it, or do you think that's the wrong move?
No, I think they're delaying the inevitable, kind of like what the Jets did last year. I mean, the Giants have the hardest schedule in football next year. That's kind of hard to look at. I get it. It's hard to look at now. Like, just the first 2 games of the year, the Giants have the Vikings and Commanders. Like, oh, those are 2 winnable games. Didn't think those 2 teams would be in the playoffs, but I just don't think they're going to be very good next year. Like, no matter what they do. And in his press conference, he's basically said if they're not a playoff competitive team, he's going to fire them. And there's no way I expect this team to win 8-9 games next year. I think it's a bad idea. I don't think they've done enough to prove why they should have 4 years. I mean, I get Mara's sick of firing these coaches. I mean, since Coughlin, they had McAdoo, Shermer, Joe Judge, and then he doesn't want to fire another coach. I get it. Like, it's frustrating. It's been a really dark time in New York since basically Coughlin left. They had that 1 year with McAdoo and made the playoffs, and then the Brian Dable first year, which was just an awesome year, but it was a fluke. It really set them back in the rebuild. That was supposed to be a rebuild year, and it's a disaster. I mean, they have the 3rd overall pick. I don't really know what's next. Like, what's your opinion as a non-Giants fan?
Well, I got a question for you about Dable and Shane. Do you think, because like Mara said, if they're not playoff competitive, they're going to be gone basically. What if they draft a quarterback and develop him a little bit, but the record doesn't? They win 5-6 games. Obviously,
Mara's a little annoyed. It was the day after the season ended, so I don't know if he actually means that. Who knows? Yeah. He could have just been heat in the moment. He seemed pissed off at the press conference that he did, and I mean, if they draft a quarterback, I think that's the thing that could save them another year or two. If they draft Travis Hunter, let's just say, and I don't know, if they win 4 games, they're gone. If they draft Shedeur Sanders, who ultimately I think that's the most likely scenario at this point, they will draft Shedeur Sanders. I think they like him a lot. I think the Titans would go Cam Ward. I'm skeptical about the Browns taking a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't think Dion. I don't think Dion will let his kid go there. I don't know if you saw the tweet from 2018. He goes.
Oh no, I did not.
He said this is when he was media. He said, I like the. He just said he basically just said I would if I'm a quarterback I would never go to the Browns. Like their history.
Yeah.
So obviously 7 years later I think he feels the same way. But if the Giants draft a quarterback, I mean, I think it's a bad. I hate when teams do this where they draft a rookie quarterback. Look what the Bears just did. Mm-hmm. They should have fired Eberflus last year.
And let a new coach come in.
They could have gotten Jim Harbaugh.
That's what I would always say. That
Idiots. The Bears.
And if you see what the Chargers did with Jim Harbaugh, the Bears would be in a better spot.
Yeah, but the Giants, they chose Schoen and Dable. They're not going to be good next year. You can't. Mm-hmm. Next year is not going to change your opinion than right now. It should not. That's a bad way of doing business. And I'm scared that what I think they're going to do. They have $53 million in cap space. I think they're going to just spend, and it could be overpaying for some bad contracts.
Yeah, which will then send them back even further because their mindset is going to be like, hey, if we don't fix this, we're not going to be here anyways. So at that point, you don't worry about draft picks or your money, your salary cap.
But Brian Daboll's kept saying they haven't had the quarterback, which they haven't. Daniel Jones was not a good quarterback. He's not a good quarterback in this league. He's a backup, and I get that, and I just think they're gonna quarterback situation. That's the main thing for this offseason. Schoen's gotta have better drafts. His last two drafts, this draft's okay, but they had Malik Neighbors who's a stud, and some of their later picks have been good. But I think one of the most overrated things in football and in sports general is if a rookie shows any sign of promise, they're like, this is a good draft. Like these guys show promise. Then they don't develop. That's what's happened a lot of the last two drafts for the Giants. Where if you look back on those drafts. I don't think there's not one good pick. Like, his first round picks, he drafted Evan Neal, bust. Deontay Banks, Bucks. Kayvon Thibodeau was an okay pick, but I don't think he was worth the 5th overall pick. Like, he's an okay player, and I don't know. Like, it's a tough situation. I think now I assume they'll get rid of their offensive coordinator because, I mean, you just got to change something when you're a 3-win team.
Yeah.
But, quarterback's the thing, and I'll go over what their quarterback situations are. So top draft picks, it'd be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. If they don't draft them, probably Travis Hunter unless they trade down.
What about Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State?
I think I'd prefer him over Travis Hunter.
I would too. He looks like an absolute
I think
dog.
he's going to be a stud, like Micah Parsons type player, but I don't know. I think the Giants would take Travis Hunter because they have a need at corner.
That's true.
They have their corner's bad.
And then do you think he plays both ways, just one way?
He'd be primarily a corner and then some offense, but not
like specialty packages, that sort of thing.
He wouldn't be a full-time two-way player, but personally, I think I'm higher on Shedeur Sanders than most people. I think I see promise in him. He wouldn't be affected by the New York media. He's a Sanders.
Yeah.
He's been around the media his whole life. There's not a moment too big for him, but I'm a little worried if Deion Sanders is the Cowboys' next head coach. Then the Giants aren't going to draft. The Giants will end up getting him because the Cowboys will trade up for him. Because I wonder, that's a headline. I don't know how much of a likely scenario it is him becoming the head coach at this point. But if he does,
like if he's offered the job, he's taking it. He's so predictable, I think, because
he's wanted this.
He's wanted this, and you just I could tell before the beginning of the season if his kids are gone. He doesn't really have any reason to be staying at Colorado.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
He's not doing this for himself or because he loves coaching. He's doing this for his kids.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. So I think Deion Sanders of the Cowboys, as a non-NFC East fan, of a team in that division, I think it's an awesome fit. I actually love it.
Oh, you do?
Personally, what about you?
If I were an NFC East fan, I would love it because I think that would be a bad move.
I think Deion Sanders could change the Cowboys. That guy's a winner in everything he's done.
He's
a
winner
great football, baseball player, media, coach, college, high school. He's been awesome at everything. I know the NFL is a different level, but I'm a Deion Sanders fan. I think there's no too big a moment for primetime.
I don't think Shedeur is a bad prospect, but I don't think he's as good as they're propping him up to be. And I think him and his kids have done a masterclass of marketing themselves and almost tricking everyone.
So I've had the hot take that if he wasn't Deion Sanders' kid, he'd be better off because he would have been at a Power 5 school and I think people would have been playing better competition. I don't know. That's an interesting argument. But I saw that the Giants love Shedeur Sanders. I saw last year if he declared, he probably been a second-round pick.
Okay.
Apparently they would have taken him. Like,
Okay.
they had their eyes set on him. Joe Shane's been at Colorado practices. But, of course, you can say, who knows if that's for more Travis or Shedeur. We don't know. But I'll do the other. So what the Giants could do is, either way, I think if they draft a high-tier quarterback, they'll get a low-tier vet. So Garoppolo, Cooper Rush, Jameis, like a guy that wouldn't really care. Like I don't see them going for Russell Wilson, Fields, Cousins, or Rodgers in that situation. But if they do the other thing where they draft Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, or maybe not Quinn Ewers, he's probably lower, but those two in the second or third round, then I would assume they would sign like a mid-tier veteran. So then maybe they do the Sam Darnold route, which that's an interesting name. I mean, as a Giants fan, I don't want Sam Darnold. I don't think he does well in the New York spotlight.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to come back to New York. I started like I knew that this is not a chance of anything at all, but I started like buying myself into like, what if Sam Darnold could like come back to New York? Like that'd be so cool. But I don't think he ever will want to do that.
But I think him losing money might help the Giants because it would be a 2-year deal maybe. So like that's not 2 years, whatever. If you don't draft a quarterback, next year you draft, who knows, Arch Manning, which maybe it's destiny.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's 2026. That's so far away in these guys' careers. Like as a general manager, head coach, you can't think that. Arch Manning hasn't even been the main quarterback for Texas yet.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I don't see him going for Russell Wilson. Kirk Cousins, I think, is a bad idea. Aaron Rodgers, I don't see that one happening. Kyler Murray could be an intriguing one. I think a lot of teams would be interested in Kyler Murray if he's available.
They would. I just don't. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't see that happening. I see him just staying in Arizona.
You think he stays? Okay,
Yeah.
but see, I think the draft's the most likely scenario with the Giants' top 3, their third overall pick. They're going to take a quarterback, either Ward or Sanders. I don't think the Browns are going to take a quarterback because, first off, the history of the franchise just shows why they shouldn't take a quarterback. They can't draft quarterbacks. Like, they just can't. And I also saw that Myles Garrett talked to the organization, and he basically said, I don't think a rebuild's necessary. And the Stefanski's still there, the GM's still there, and they were just a playoff team a year ago. I don't really know if the Browns, because if they take a quarterback, they're kind of headed in that rebuild situation.
Yeah. What route do you think that they would even go in, though, with
a veteran quarterback?
Quarterback?
I actually saw them with Kirk Cousins. I mean,
Okay.
Watson,
that makes
he
a
may
lot
not
of
even
sense.
play next year. So, I mean,
Yeah.
look what they did with Joe Flacco. I mean,
That is true.
So, like, I can see the Kirk Cousins move with them.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, like, a solid veteran. I mean, I don't think Wilson or Fields will go there, but you never know. But we'll talk more draft later.
Yeah,
We'll
of
talk
course.
Jets head coach when that comes. So now let's get into a little bit about baseball. And I think the first thing we got to talk about, obviously this is a month-old news, and I think we'll talk about it once, about Juan Soto's Yankee tenure. Juan Soto left the Yankees for a 15-year, $765 million contract that turns into $805 million once he could opt out, but the Mets can just avoid it, which they will.
Yeah.
And with the New York Mets, we're 2 Yankee fans. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I wanted Juan Soto back. I loved him. I loved the year he had. You want to go first about your thoughts, about your feelings about Juan Soto?
Yeah, I mean, it's so sad, honestly. I know that number, the figure of over $700 million is just outrageous, and this would never happen if Steve Cohen wasn't owning a baseball team. Like, no team would ever get this high. And so, yeah, the number's outrageous, but if the Yankees brought him back on that 16-year, $760, I would be happy.
We would be happy. I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, but that number is so much. It is going to be sad not watching him play last year, watching highlights from throughout this year, him running out to right field, like how he interacts with the fans, him hitting bombs. It's going to be sad not to have that this year, and he is an unbelievable player.
He's a generational hitter. So I will say, I was at the game Juan Soto hit that awesome ALCS home run to send the Yankees World Series. He was a great player, but I mean, overall, what I'll say about him is you can't get mad at a player for taking the most money. I don't blame the Yankees at all. They did everything they could to sign him. A lot of players in the past have chosen the Yankees. They've wanted to be a Yankee. And overall, clearly, I mean, through the reports of the signings, it seemed like if it was close, he would choose the Yankees. But that wasn't true. He never cared about being a Yankee. He's not Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, Giancarlo Stanton. Those guys wanted to be a Yankee. He just looked at a Yankee as another team. The Yankees mean the same name as the Miami Marlins.
Yeah.
Being a Yankee feels special for players, and he didn't care about being
he's
a
had
Yankee.
this plan ever since he turned down that over $400
him and Scott
contract.
They've had this plan since then. He looked at the Yankees as a rental, and he had a great year there. Him and Aaron Judge were literally modern-day Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. They were such an awesome duo.
Do you think his numbers go down not hitting in front of Aaron Judge next year?
Oh, I mean, he had a career year. Yes,
Yeah.
I ultimately do believe that his numbers go down. He had a career year, and his product last year, Mets fans should not expect that every single year. He's not a great fielder. He doesn't run the bases well. He's an awesome hitter.
Great hitter.
One of some of the best approach to the plate I've ever seen out of a player.
And you can never get him flustered. Like he flusters like most pitchers he faces. You can never get Juan Soto flustered or nervous or anything like that.
And with the Yankees, he would have been another all-time great Yankee.
Yeah.
He could be the all-time great Met. And it was some of it I wondered. Well, see, it was always going to be Judge's team.
Yeah.
Judge is the captain. Judge is the main star. Judge is the better player. Like, let's be honest. Aaron Judge is a better player than Juan Soto. That's not a hot take. He is.
Yeah.
But he didn't care about being a Yankee, and I've moved on. It's gonna suck seeing him on the Mets, but the Yankees bounced back well, which we're about to get into. And the last thing I'll say is now you're my least favorite player in baseball.
Yeah. Now.
You are there with Jose Altuve. Honestly, the Jose Altuve stuff kind of feels old unless we play them in the playoff series, but. You are my least favorite player in sports right now.
I went from being sad and shocked. Right when I heard the news, I went from being sad and shocked to just so pissed off.
But the Yankees, I think, recovered well, and let's get into their offseason. So, Yankees struck fast after Juan Soto and signed superstar pitcher Max Fried to a 8-year, $218 million deal. How do you feel about this deal?
He's a great pitcher. He's going to slot in perfectly behind Cole.
So number 2, yes.
Yeah, lefty. The only concern I have about this contract is the years because he's probably not going to play this whole contract. He's had Tommy John in the past, but this is the best. What the Yankees have done so far is the best case scenario to losing Juan Soto, and he's a great pitcher, and I think he's gonna.
I mean, he's a
great
superstar.
year. Yeah.
He's a stud pitcher. He pitched that Game 6 in the World Series to beat the Astros in 2021. Since 2019, I think, or 2020, him and Garrett Cole have the best ERA in baseball. And those two are going to form an amazing 1-2 punch. The Yankees have been searching for a number 2 starter alongside Garrett Cole. And what Max Fried does is Garrett Cole is 33, 34. He brings some pressure off Garrett Cole, as Max Fried's only 30, I believe.
And also some pressure off of Rodon. Because he can slot in lower.
Now Rodon is the 3 or maybe even 4 if one of these young guys develop.
Heel.
I mean, the Yankees have a scary rotation up there with baseball. Top 2 probably alongside the Dodgers.
And the Phillies have a really good rotation.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees have an awesome rotation. I would say the best in the American League, actually, that I can think of. I think the Mariners have a good rotation.
They do. They have a really good rotation.
But the Mariners aren't really a threat. They're not a big threat.
They might not even make the playoffs.
No, I mean, they're not expected to.
Yeah.
And then the next move by the Yankees, which I did not see this move coming. Yeah. All-star closer Devin Williams was traded to the New York Yankees for Caleb Durbin, who they hyped up, which I think this was a Cashman fleece where he hyped up a prospect that they said we were going to start, and Nestor Cortez, who I like Nestor as a Yankee, but Devin Williams is an awesome player.
Probably the best reliever in baseball. Has that nasty change-up that they call airbender. They say no pitcher in baseball can throw anything like that. So,
I mean, he just adds that Yankee bullpen with him and Luke Weaver, who Luke Weaver turned into an amazing player. I like how we're not putting too much pressure
on him, right? Yeah.
And I mean, as a closer, if the Yankees have Devin Williams last year, they win 10 more games because Clay Holmes blew the most saves in baseball.
Yeah, Clay Holmes.
Who we'll talk about more when we go over the Mets offseason. And then
It's kind of
Yankees-
sad to see Cortez go. He's been a great Yankee.
He's
Obviously,
been a good Yankee.
obviously,
Yeah, it was the right move.
They flipped.
He was
Holmes,
out of the rotation.
Yeah, they flipped Holmes and Cortez basically for Fried and Williams. So
That's a huge upgrade.
Two huge upgrades.
And now, the Yankees, after they lost, so if they kept Juan Soto, it would have been a lot of, like, Caleb Durbin, I think would have been our starting second baseman.
Yeah,
If we kept
he hit 300.
in
AAA.
the Arizona Fall League. He had a good
Okay.
Arizona Fall League. I mean, he could be a decent big leaguer, but this is a no-doubter trade with Devin Williams.
Yeah.
And then our next trade was longtime rumor Yankee option, Cody Bellinger, who will play in the outfield this year. Again, I really like this move by Cashman. Bellinger fits, that lefty swing is going to fit great in the Bronx. He's wanted to be a Yankee. He has struggled with the Dodgers, but he's had a good 2 years with the Cubs.
But struggled. He has these seasons where he's either the MVP, which he did
really
win the MVP,
weird.
or he looks like he should be out of baseball. But I think the Yankees could slot him into the 2-hole in that lineup in front of
you
Judge.
think he'd be the 2-hole? I'm leaning towards the 3-hole.
The only reason I say to put him in front of Judge is because he's not the same player Juan Soto was, but we saw the effect that batting in front of Aaron Judge had on Juan Soto. He's a great player no matter what, but you have to throw the guy in front of Aaron Judge more strikes because you don't want to face Aaron Judge with runners on bases.
And then Bellinger, he's really changed his approach. He's hit high average these past 2 seasons. And then home runs have gone down, but Wrigley Field's a tough place to hit in. I saw if he played his games at Yankee Stadium, he'd had 6 more home runs.
Okay.
I think he could change his approach. I think he might be approaching 30 home runs again. I think he can approach 30 home runs.
I could totally see that with that short porch.
And he can play anywhere. He can play first base. He can play all outfield positions. He'll probably be, I don't know, he might be left or center. I think they're going to try Dominguez at center, at least to start off.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
But who knows? And then our last big move was Paul Goldschmidt, which I was kind of surprised by. The Christian Walker seemed like the first baseman move, but I think I liked Paul Goldschmidt, who had a down year last year, but I think still some left in the tank. He's not going to be the MVP player, but he's a much bigger upgrade than Rizzo. The Yankees had the worst first base production in baseball last year.
Yeah, he started off slow, but then he did turn around. So, like, the numbers look worse than they were because down the stretch he played a lot better. But it did really feel like Christian Walker was like, ever since the World Series ended, it felt like Christian Walker was going to be the Yankees' first baseman next year.
And I think so they don't want too much long-term money. It seems like because the only long-term thing they really did was Max Fried, and Goldschmidt's first baseman. So I'm thinking they might try to go all out for a first baseman next year, or it's you're looking far ahead, but Kyle Tucker, you move Bellinger
Kyle Tucker,
first. But I like the Goldschmidt deal. If it doesn't, it's a low risk. If it doesn't work out, you address the issue at deadline. If he's not playing well, smaller things. Jonathan Loáisiga returned. I think that was a good move.
If Loáisiga can stay healthy, like he's a really good piece in that bullpen.
I don't think he'll be ready right away.
Yeah.
But they also traded Jose Trevino for Fernando Cruz, who this was a salary dump move, but Fernando Cruz has a really good, I think it's a splitter.
Yeah, like nasty.
Yes,
yeah.
And that could be good for the Yankees. I mean, to enhance the bullpen. And I think they have one more infield move left. Some guys Luis Arraez, I think they're off of, which I was really back and forth on how I feel about him, but I think the Yankees are going for a run prevention team. Last year's issues, I mean, we'll go through the breakdown of what we expect, but they were horrible defensively.
Yeah, and a lot of that was second base. So.
And I mean, it showed in the World Series that they, obviously Game 5, we all know the fifth inning. And Game 1, if we have, that's Devin Williams in, or I don't know if you remember, I mean, Oswaldo Cabrera, it wasn't an error, but he could have, if we have a second baseman in, he could have made a play to get it out. I don't know if you remember what play.
I kind of vaguely remember what you're talking about.
Before we move on to Mets, some rumors mentioning that did not happen. Alex Bregman, I mean, I doubt it happens.
Yeah, no,
but
I don't see
that was a little bit of rumor. Anthony Santander doesn't really fit them.
Yeah, I don't think they'll add another outfielder. Only infield.
No, definitely not outfielder. Nolan Arenado, who, I mean, I honestly, personally, his contract's not the best, but I think he fits defensively. I mean, I think Yankees might be a little scared it's Donaldson 2.0. Don't see that. But then Gavin Lux was traded, who that could have been an option for the Yankees. And then Roki Sasaki. I don't really think the Yankees had too much of a hope, at least most Yankee fans.
I did start getting bought in. Mostly the idea of him because the way that contract's going to work, he's going to be on like a rookie deal, so you have 6 years control over him.
Yeah,
but
whoever gets him, the Dodgers or Padres, and they say the Blue Jays, but all these players put the Blue Jays in just to not go there.
Yeah. So I didn't necessarily think the Yankees were in on him, but the idea of it was starting to sound really nice to me.
And so that's all we're going to talk about the Yankees for now. Let's go to the across the subway to the Mets. So obviously the Mets, Juan Soto, they add their guy. They've since Steve Cohen bought the Mets, this is what he's wanted to do, get big market free agents. And they steal a superstar from Big Brother Yankees. And for them, they got their guy. This is what they wanted, and they got a great player on their team.
Yeah, we just obviously went over Juan Soto. The Mets are lucky to have him, but that is a hefty price to pay.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of their offseason traded for outfielder Jose Siri from the Rays, Frankie Montas, which this is what David Stern likes to do. He likes these projects where last year it's Severino and Mania, who they brought back Mania, lost Severino to the A's, which the A's signing Severino threw me off.
Yeah, they basically had to spend money or else they weren't going to be let into the pay pool or whatever. But I agree with the Mets rotation because they did the same thing last year. We're coming in the year. They're like, oh, this rotation, the media was saying this rotation's not going to work, whatever. And it did work. They had a really nice year. So
I mean, I think the rotation's a weakness, though.
I think it's a weakness too. But I can see Clay Holmes being a starter with that soft contact, the way he approaches. He is not a good closer, and I could see him settling into games and stuff. Frankie Montas is also a Yankee disaster.
Yeah, he was a Yankee disaster. Clay Holmes, we all hated him a little bit, but he had a good stretch with the Yankees. He had a good
stretch with the Yankees, especially
definitely
down the stretch.
Even this year,
down the stretch in the playoffs.
He pitched well in the playoffs. He wasn't a closer. It's a mental thing for him. I swear, anytime he went in the game and it was a closing situation, he would just be a disaster.
And he's definitely capable of it. He's just got to basically get his mind right. I don't know.
Yeah, but he'll be a starter. I don't see him being a guy that pitches a ton of innings, 4 or 5 innings type guy. But the Mets, if you look at their payroll, they have a couple of moves coming still.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pete Alonso is the popular one who I expect Alonso to be back.
Yeah, I just
don't know where else he'd go. He doesn't have much of a market.
They're saying Seattle, but hitters go to Seattle to die.
I don't see the A's.
Yeah, I don't see the A's.
Just random teams.
It feels like we're basically just waiting. I have a theory that the Mets could be trying to make this contract as tradable as possible next year with Vladdy coming onto the open market. I can't talk. With Vladdy coming onto the open market, because I think they want to go all out for him.
Well, I don't know if you see the rumor today. They've checked in on Vladimir Guerrero.
Oh, via trade? Yeah.
Andy Martino reported it, New York reporter. But I don't think the Blue Jays trade him. I mean, for the Mets, that'd be massive.
The only way I could see the Blue Jays trading him is if you get to the deadline and the Blue Jays feel like they have no chance of bringing him back.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know if they bring a... I think the only way they would trade for Guerrero is if they don't do the Alonso. It's tough with Alonso because they really want Guerrero. It's risky giving him those Boris-type 3-year deals with opt-outs because he can really screw you over.
Yeah.
Overall, I think he comes back. And I think the Mets might have another... They'll definitely have at least one more bigger size move. And they also could do something of the line. Because if you look at their payroll, they're only at $269 million. You assume Steve Cohen does not care. So he'll go multiple over the Cohen tax. So I think it's 301. I think that's the tax.
301, I believe.
Other options. Tanner Scott's an interesting option for them because he's looking at $20 million AAV, which is a lot for a reliever. And I don't really know who else would do that. His market's interesting. Alex Bregman for them. He could play third or second, depending on what happens with Alonso. They'd move Vientos to first, likely.
Yeah, and then, I like if they don't bring back Alonso, I do like Vientos at first, and then you could bring in a third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely, they have a couple moves coming. I'm a little surprised they didn't go after a big-time starting pitcher. Especially Corbin Burns, who has experience with David Stearns with the Brewers. Because I don't like that rotation, just personally.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it doesn't look the best. We'll see if they could do what they did last year. But I am surprised they didn't go after Corbin Burns, especially because Cohen doesn't care about the amount of money he spent. Even now, some of the other moves they're making, getting these projects and stuff, I I feel like Cohen definitely learned his lesson with Verlander.
Yeah, that's
and
all
Scherzer,
David Stern. He lets David Stern do the stuff he's good at.
Yeah.
So they didn't go after the heavy starting pitching market. Overall, I think they'll have another move or two we'll talk about in the coming weeks. Spring training's only about a pitcher and catcher's report in about a month.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do the voicemail now? Or?
Yeah. What do you think about them being linked to Verdugo?
Oh yeah. So Alex Verdugo, who had a horrible year with the Yankees. Let's compare to this year with the Red Sox. I don't know if I actually see that one happening. It'd be funny just because they always add these former Yankees. And I actually saw the Mets are interested in Tim Hill, too. Of course, another former Yankee who I think the Yankees should bring back. I think they'll definitely bring in a left-handed reliever.
Yeah.
Which I would like it to be Tim Hill. I thought I liked what he did with the Yankees, but I don't know. I saw a couple other options. I can't remember the guys' names they've been looking at. Also, for the Yankees, they lost Gleyber Torres, which I wouldn't really say lost. They had no intention of bringing him back. Overall, Torres just didn't fit the team anymore.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. He had a really bad free agency year. He played better.
Really bad free agency year, but he also kind of brought that on himself with the poor effort, stuff like that. I mean, Gleyber Torres is always going to have I guess a spot in our heart because we've been watching him. We were watching him since he was young.
And he just didn't. The Yankees are clearly focused on a defensive first team, and that's not
which
what
they should be. Which they should be.
They were horrible defensive last year. It cost them in the playoffs. And the Dodgers said, other players said it, and they knew if you hit the ball and play, good things are going to happen.
And they basically had that tell-all interview where they were just mocking the Yankees. So, okay, I'm gonna play this voicemail from Big Lou.
Hey, this is Big Lou from New Jersey. Assuming the Yankees are done adding, who bats leadoff for them in 2025?
All right, thank you for the call, Big Lou. So I think there's three realistic options. I think Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, and then my sleeper, Jason Dominguez.
I personally really like Volpe. I know me and you talked about this at the beginning of last year when it looked like it was going to be LeMahieu, and we both mentioned Volpe a little bit. I mentioned this before. I like the idea of a righty leadoff hitter and then putting Bellinger at the 2 spot. But I know a lot of people are back and forth on Judge batting 2 or batting 3 because I just think you're obviously your leadoff guy sets up the rest of the lineup. So that's why I like the righty at leadoff.
So I think the Yankees wanted to be Anthony Volpe when they brought him up, but he's hit better in the middle of the lineup. Yeah. And he doesn't get on base enough. He has below a 300 on base percentage. And I think opening day I actually think it's going to be Jazz Chisholm.
Okay.
But I think by May it could be Jason Dominguez because Dominguez, off his minor league stats, gets on base a ton.
Yeah.
And which is perfect. And I think Judge is going back to the 2-hole personally.
Okay. I do like Jazz too. The one Torres was a great leadoff hitter for us, but the one thing he would get on base all the time, but the one thing that he can't steal. So he's not a great base runner, and Jazz could bring that. All three of those guys could. Jazz and Volpe really could, and he could too. Yeah.
Overall, I think I prefer Jazz in the middle of the lineup though. I think his power is an asset you want to have in the middle of your lineup. I think he can drive a lot of runs in, but I don't know. I think it might. In spring training, they're going to try all three of those guys. Yeah. But if I had to guess, I'm going to go Jazz Chisholm opening day. Are you going to go Volpe?
I can see Volpe opening day. I don't know if he'd stay in that spot because he had the same thing last year where eventually they moved him to the leadoff spot and they didn't keep him in that spot. So depends because it feels like they move him around the lineup. He gets really hot and then goes so cold.
Yeah, to me, this is the biggest question of the Yankees right now. Who's going to bat leadoff? So before we end off, let's get into these divisional matchups.
Well, I think we do have one more. We have one more voicemail. My dad
another
called.
Voicemail? Yeah, all right, perfect.
Hey guys, this is Max from New Jersey. First time, long time. I just wanted to get your opinion on the Yankees. What do you think they need to do? Any more moves this offseason? Question mark. You like moving Jazz to second base, or would you prefer to find somebody to play second? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. Take care.
Okay, thank you for the call. Personally, so I think they're gonna add another infielder. Whether I don't know, I honestly could not give you a name right now. The infielder, what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
Maybe a trade or Jorge Polanco on the market, and then a left-handed reliever.
I think the Yankees, their dream scenario is for Jazz to play second as opposed to third.
I think Jazz is a better. He can do both, but I think he's a better second baseman. And third. Who let's say if they do Jazz at second, I don't think they're going in the season. I just don't think they're going to do the Peraza, Cabrera, LeMahieu third base option.
Who, out of Peraza and Cabrera, because I know neither of us want LeMahieu, who do you like better?
I think I like Cabrera as a utility guy.
Yeah,
so
I
would
do
go
too,
Peraza,
so-
but I don't think any of this is ideal as your third baseman.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a tough because part of me wonders, the Yankees, I think are the best team in the American League. I think they had a good offseason, and I just don't think they need to address this until July if they really need to, if they don't love what's out there. So it's interesting. I have a feeling they're gonna add one more move. I don't know what it is. They could be talking trades. Who knows? I really cannot give you a name at this point.
I would be very intrigued to see what Peraza could do, but
So I was listening to Talking Yanks and what they said about Peraza. If you look at Peraza's stats, his stats go insanely down when he plays in the cold weather.
Oh, I didn't see that.
See, I actually think...
So that means October comes around.
Well, and then even April and March when the
yeah.
season starts. But I think they might give LeMahieu a shot if it's...
That's just insane. Like
they're gonna give him a spring training.
Yeah.
They're paying him. They're giving him a spring training. I think he's gonna play because they give they give Paul Goldschmidt a day off. They could put LeMahieu at first. A guy gets a day off. LeMahieu plugs in at third, second, or first. He could just be a utility guy this year. And
expensive
he was hurt last year. Like if he's hitting 250, 260, he hit 204 last year.
I think if he hit 250, that'd be like a dream scenario.
That's true. Like you're right. He was no one expected him to be that bad last year.
Yeah.
So the Yankees are going to give him a shot, but if I had to guess, I think they will add an infielder though.
Yeah, eventually.
I don't think it's going to be LeMahieu, Cabrera, Peraza opening day.
But I don't think the infielder they add will be like a Rise.
No,
or someone splashy.
I don't think Luis Rise is a good idea for them.
I see it being Polanco because
Polanco, I think, is the most.
He had a down year last year, and maybe they could be thinking like, oh, we could return him to form.
He would play second.
Yeah.
So Jazz would
stay at third. Yeah.
So and then if you sign Polanco, you could just address third or second at the deadline. I mean, personally, the Yankees, I don't think are going to do this, but I'm like, Alex Bregman's market's coming down.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to be a 7-year deal for him now. I think you can get him a 2 to 3 year deal, which he's 30. Probably that Boris opt-out type deal that Bellinger has right now that a lot of his clients do. And I don't think the Yankees are going to do it, but I think it's an intriguing option. I mean, who knows? They could be talking internally about it.
Yeah, no, that is definitely something interesting to think about. So, thanks, Max, for the call. And
maybe next week we'll have some
more callers.
I mean, coming weeks,
yeah,
we'll have some more answers about the Yankees infield or left-handed relievers. So now we'll end off the show by getting into our divisional matchup previews. I believe the first game. I'm trying to think. What's the first game this weekend?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Is it the Chiefs game? Is it Chiefs Texans?
First game is Chiefs Texans.
Okay,
at 4:30 on Saturday.
So for this game, for the Texans, have had a rocky year, and I think a lot of people expected more out of them. They've looked inconsistent. They've had some bad losses. I believe this is a rematch from Christmas Day, right?
Yep, Christmas Day. They got killed by the Chiefs.
So for the Texans, you're right back where you are last year. They were the underdog young team, and I think we expected them to be here. Not until last week. I think we thought their season fell apart, but here they are again, and now they have a chance against the 1 seed. So I'm intrigued about this matchup.
And yeah, they definitely repaired their stock a little bit because like we had mentioned earlier in the show, we thought the Chargers were going to go in there and handle them, but then C.J. Stroud didn't have the best game, but that defense is really good. Will Anderson, Stingley had 2 picks. This isn't just like anything for the Chiefs to not take seriously. Like, they better be ready this weekend for Houston.
Overall, though, I think the Chiefs are going to take this
yeah,
matchup.
yeah.
I expect the Chiefs to win this game. Our next matchup, Lions Commanders, with the Commanders pulling off the upset last week, and now they have a chance to shock the world. They are heavy underdogs in this matchup. They are here too early. I mean, this is a rookie quarterback against a Super Bowl aspirations team.
Yeah, the Commanders' Cinderella run's going to come to an end this week, but it's been such a great year. Jaden Daniels has such a bright future. He's so composed, and maybe they keep it tight, but I don't see Washington really hanging in this game.
Yeah, and then we'll go into the Sunday window. So Eagles-Rams, this is an interesting matchup to me. I think this could be a very, very good game, and I actually think the winner is going to make the Super Bowl. I have a weird feeling about this. And the Rams, I mean, they've just been like inevitable the last couple of years. Like, I feel like they're always in the mix, and they had a horrible start to the year, and now they've been maybe the hottest team in the league. And actually, I think they're going to win this matchup.
I was going to say the Rams are going to pull off the upset this weekend. It is crazy thinking back on the year, how they almost blew it up, almost traded away Cooper Kupp and everything.
Cooper Kupp.
And now they have a chance to be playing in the NFC title game. I think the Rams take it too. McVay and Stafford are just like built for moments like this, and they're just winners, and I think they take it.
And our last matchup, the best matchup of the weekend, I think I could say, we have the two MVP frontrunners, Josh Allen and the Bills, versus Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and I think this is going to be an awesome game.
It is going to be a great
really
game.
50-50. The Ravens look awesome. The Bills look awesome. Two superstar quarterbacks. How do you feel about this matchup?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Josh Allen's going to come out and be Josh Allen, and I can see Baltimore just running all over the Bills. Ultimately, I'm going to take the Bills. I think Josh Allen,
home field will help them.
Field, and he's just going to will them to victory, I think.
I'm going to split this one with you. I'm going to go the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to their run game. This should be too much for the Bills. Lamar and Henry are just such a good duo, and I think ultimately they're going to win this game.
The Bills need a true number one guy to step up and be Josh Allen's guy, because he's the one who's carrying that offense right now. Him and James Cook.
So that will do it for this week. Next week we will go over this divisional matchups. We will talk about the championship games, and we will go over more Yankees and Mets baseball. Anything else, Henry?
Maybe some NBA. I don't know.
Maybe some NBA, yes, if news starts getting up. We'll talk some NBA.
Yeah, and that college football.
Oh, yeah, of course, the national championship, of course.
We didn't really have much time to talk about it.
We didn't have much time to talk about that, but we will go over the national championship. Thank you for watching.